I want to read you some quotes from back in 2003. This was right before the Iraq invasion, and people were concerned about what Saddam Hussein had done in the first Persian Gulf War. Now, you remember he lit up some of the oil fields, and that was an environmental mess, and it was a horrible thing to do. Some people thought it was a war crime. As he was exiting Kuwait, as we were chasing him out of Kuwait, back in the 1990s. So let me go back to an old article from 2003 in CNN to tell you how terrible that was, okay? In the waning days of the Persian Gulf War, as Iraqi forces retreated to Baghdad, Saddam Hussein sent a team of engineers into Kuwaiti oil fields and blew up hundreds of wells. They continue to explain that over the next 7 months, more than 1 billion barrels of oil went up in flames, and Kuwait and much of the Persian Gulf was engulfed in a poisonous smoke, creating a large-scale environmental disaster. Goddamn Saddam Hussein. You see what an evil guy he is? He blew up oil wells, put the poison up in the air. Well, let's find out more from that. They quoted Dr. Michel Al-Mashham there, head of the Kuwaiti Environment Protection Agency. He said at the time, "Right now in Kuwait, we are noticing an increasing number of cases of cancer. We think it's related to what happened in '91 when we had the oil fires. A lot of people breathe very bad air. That's what happens when you blow up oil wells, right?" That's a kind of war criminal that Saddam Hussein was. One more quote from you, for you. Another expert here says, the oil that did not burn in the fires traveled on the wind in the form of a nearly invisible droplets, resulting in an oil mist or fog that poisoned trees and grazing sheep, contaminated fresh water supplies, and found refuge in the lungs of people and animals through the Gulf. Now, let me read to you a news report from this morning. A third night of U.S.-led airstrikes late on Wednesday targeted Islamic State-controlled oil refineries in eastern Syria as the United States and its allies tried to stem a major source of revenue for the al-Qaeda offshoot, U.S. officials said. Now, when you read into the story, you see that they bombed some refineries, they bombed some oil fields, and if you watch the press, as I did today, you will see a lot of people saying, thank God, it's about time. We should have bombed the oil refineries and the oil fields earlier because ISIS is making $2 to $3 million a year from selling that bootleg oil that they're getting from the oil fields in the land that they control. It's true, they are getting a lot of money from that. I understand why we want to stop that revenue, but isn't this an unbelievable example of the propaganda model? I mean, they're proving Noam Chomsky right every single day. When Saddam Hussein blows up oil fields, war crimes, it gets in the lungs, the droplets of oil, causes cancer for decades on end. When the U.S. does it, way to go, you Uncle Sam, way to get those oil fields. There's no talk of smoke, there's no talk of poison, there's no talk of environmental catastrophe. It's just, job well done, you got ISIS. And by the way, we are helping the people of Iraq and Syria. Either burning up the oil fields is maybe necessary, but really dangerous, or not dangerous at all. You can't have it both ways. You can't say it's really dangerous when Saddam Hussein does it, but it's not at all dangerous when we do it. And that we should applaud it and we should look forward to more of those. At the very least, be honest and say, hey, you know what? This has a significant downside. This will cause serious environmental problems in the area, and we'd have to study to see if it causes cancer later. It affects the environment, the animals, but most importantly, the humans in the area, and we're so worried about those consequences, but we had to do it. But there's not even any explanation of that because nobody even asked them that question anymore because our media just bows its head and says, well, of course, great job in bombing the oil fields. But were you not around? The reason I went back and found that old article is because I was around when we did the first Persian Gulf War. I was around when we invaded in 2003 in Iraq. And I saw all that. And a lot of you saw it. But apparently, no one in the establishment press was around at that time. Hear no evil, see no evil, and definitely speak no evil. One side gets a completely different standard than our side does, and that's how the world goes around. And this is the last time you will hear in any press my prediction of how bombing oil fields might be a problem and that we should be concerned about us bombing oil fields and lighting them on fire, kind of like Saddam Hussein did.